Well, here we are. I am very keenly aware of all of the different reactions that people have had so far about this game. I get it. It's been a wild ride, to say the least. Been a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, a lot of hope. There has been some optimism here. We are still talking about Her Interactive, and they made 32 games before this. A lot of excitement as well. In case you aren't particularly aware of what's been going on for the last 4 years regarding Midnight in Salem, let me give you a quick preview.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
In case it wasn't particularly clear, it's been a long wait. It's been a rocky road. There's a lot of stuff that's gone down. Just the amount of things since Game 32. Basically everything except the game has happened. My gosh. Game engine's changed. Voice of Nancy Drew has changed. The entire interface has changed. My gosh, the CEO has changed. Who knows how much frickin' turnover there's been. What else have we had? We've had... yeah, the whole release process has been, a delay... multiple delays in when the game has come out. We've had random trailers that don't actually show any gameplay. We've had several images of not final renderings that I'm not sure were ever made final. Let's just say it's been hard to tell that this game was, actually coming. It's Midnight in Salem. That's all there's to it. Well, I guess if there's one thing we know about the game, it's this.
It's a witch hunt.
But beyond that, really just got to get into it. So let's see what this 4-year wait has finally brought us, besides this frickin' cover. Yeah, that whole thing was in real time, so No, hang on. It's not quite time to panic yet, okay? You can do that later. So, how are we going to organize this review? Well, first and foremost, I think it would be helpful to look at what this game is supposed to have and see where we can go from there. Well, the list pretty much just includes everything they could think of, to basic things you'd expect in a video game to things that may be related to the whole being in Salem and hunting witches thing. Do all these things get accomplished?
Sounds like a lot of...
Hoopla!
Sounds like a lot of...
Hoopla!
Sounds like a...
Hoopla! Hoopla!
So here's how I think we're going to do this. We're going to do this in a compliment sandwich. In other words, I'm going to say one good thing about the game up front, talk to you about all the stuff that isn't so great, and then end on another positive note. I mean, it may be that our compliment sandwich looks like a 20 stuff Oreo, but it's still an Oreo, I think. You know what, let's just get into it. Let me start with something that may be unexpected, especially if you played Alibi in Ashes. I think Deirdre might be my favorite Nancy Drew character. If not in a long time, then maybe ever. And here's why, okay? First, Deirdre does not put up with any of Nancy's crap. And here's what I'm talking about. You know how in every Nancy Drew game, basically the entire story is that Nancy just has a bunch of free money to go around the world and stick her nose into other people's problems, right? Deirdre is like the first character I've ever seen in a Nancy Drew game that, there are plenty that call Nancy nosy and then just let it go. Like, it's just some kind of side comment. But Deirdre, knows enough about Nancy to be like, what the hell is up with your life? How can you manage to keep doing what you're doing? She's just so realistic. When you have a series of games about a character that's just supposed to do everything, be able to accomplish anything, Deirdre's just the one person that's she really just keeps us grounded. She's funny, she's snarky, she seems like the most well-rounded person I've seen in a Nancy Drew game in a long time. And you know what? That includes Nancy. Deirdre's just someone that I feel like I can relate to, and everyone else is just kind of like a caricature. Yeah, it's rather interesting, and I love it. Honestly, I don't know why everyone gets so freaking excited about the Hardy Boys. If we could solve mysteries with Deirdre, oh my gosh, that would be fantastic. I would want to play Deirdre. If I get the chance to in this game, I will freaking... That would be so exciting. Again, she's just someone that I feel like she's probably the only person in this game, and one of the few people in the Nancy Drew series that it doesn't feel like a burden talking to her. I actually want to hear what she has to say. It's so weird. What a great job they did. Also, yes, Deirdre is literally stuck in the middle of this conversation with another person. Okay, now for some of the other stuff that's just kind of meh. First and foremost, I suppose the graphics. Well, I think everyone's expectations were incredibly low, considering the not final renderings, the trailer, and all that stuff, but it's not bad. Everything looks like something. You can tell things apart from each other. Gosh, that might be the only good things I have to say, honestly. It's just kind of blah. I get that Nancy Drew games had never been the fanciest looking things, but it is 2019. This game did take 4.5 years to make. It's just... It doesn't look much better than older Nancy Drew games. Here, I'll show you an example. in case you forgot, this is what the White Wolf of Icicle Creek looks like. This game came out in 2007. I mean, not only is it a good game, but you can kind of see what things, textures, people look like, how they move, animation, and things like that. It's really, really good. And they just kept they kept improving from there. And then you have Midnight in Salem. I mean, look, people, this could have been a lot worse, but this is a game at high graphics, and it's not even necessarily the graphics. It's just nothing really moves quite the way you want it to. People are kind of stuck in the uncanny valley. There just isn't enough to make it feel like anything here is real. I've heard this be compared to Sims, and I still think that's fair comparison. Maybe not Sims 3, but Sims 4? A little bit. No, you know what it is? All of the people in this game, they all look like porcelain dolls that aren't human enough to know how to move. And sometimes it moved their hands so wildly that it looks like they're having a seizure. It's just... Look, I don't know how hard it was with their new game engine to make people look like people, but I mean, the mouth movements are there, facial movements are kind of there, but everyone just looks like an android. They don't fit. You know, it's not like the cutscenes are a whole lot better. Everything just isn't quite good enough. You know, they made an attempt. It was a really good attempt, but it still just looks cheap, generally. I think probably one of the bigger letdowns in this game is the fact that the movement... Okay, it is a 3D environment. I'll give them that. But we're still stuck just clicking around. I kind of expected there to be, you know, movement using the WASD keys, something like that, but no, there isn't. It literally uses the same system as Myst, which I'm pretty sure came out in 1993. Yeah, the environments look pretty, but you'd get specific places that you have to stand on. You know, it's Nancy Drew. I guess it's still Nancy Drew. It just feels like they focused so much on the environment and then didn't have enough time to, you know, make sure that you could move around and do stuff. At least more stuff. I mean, here's the other thing. When it comes to the places you can actually see, I'll admit, at this point I'm only 5 hours in or so, but it consists of this town square area, which I'll admit has quite a few buildings, although the draw distance is kind of crap. There's the starting house with maybe 10 places you can stand, and then the Hathorn house, whatever, which also has 10 places you can stand. Although there's a forest, because, you know, everything happens there. I would say one of the other sacrifices that this game had to make, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense, but there really isn't a lot of gameplay to be had, if you can believe it. I mean, take this part of the game for example. Literally, all your tasks are pretty much just walking around and talking to people. Which makes sense, it's a Nancy Drew game, right? That sounds like exactly what you would do. But that's the checklist. It never really gets higher than about 4 things, all of which don't require any particular thinking to do. It's really just kind of chores, more than anything else. And it's really just padded out by having to do more of them. For example, go talk to everyone and get their alibi. Oh, sorry, you need to get 2 alibis. It's Okay. Or just go explore this location. What are you supposed to find? Doesn't really matter. There's just not a lot of content, like, keeping this game moving along. It's kind of amazing. Just in the sense that, like, I remember in even more recent Nancy Drew games, you used to have, like, checklists of 20 different things because you ran up, like, you just happened to come across this puzzle that you couldn't quite solve yet, or the character you're talking to gives you the strange task that you have to accomplish. None of that happens here. You just talk to people and then you move on to the next person to talk to. You really just gotta find different ways to entertain yourself with this game. For example, yes, this is a phone conversation with the person that is actually standing right in front of us, and they animated her to have this conversation. I do not know how that works, or whether this is even a glitch. So yeah, the game's just kind of boring. Speaking of boring, how about all the other characters I haven't talked about yet? There are a lot of them. That's one of the things this game advertised, just the amount of people. That person we just saw was Alicia. She's a lawyer. That's her entire character. This is the judge. He is literally dumber than rocks and is just a grumpy old man. That's his character. There are others around. You already seen Tegan. She's the sister. Sometimes she tells us interesting facts about history. She runs a museum. There's not much to her at all. Olivia's just the local snake oil salesman, basically. She just swindles people, tries to get them to believe supernatural crap just to make money. I really hope she's the culprit, because then we can put her in jail, and that would be fantastic. She dresses like she belongs in Harry Potter, even though she'd probably just die in the first movie or something. Did anyone die in the first movie? I hope. This is May. Somehow, despite the fact that she is, like, the most likely suspect, I don't know. The game has made her into the most uninteresting person possible. Like, everyone hates her because, when she was 9, she burned something down or something. And now her entire life is just spent on this chair, on her phone. That is literally it. The game even makes a big deal of how it's really hard to talk to her. So, why am I supposed to care at all? I guess because Deirdre does. So this is Lauren. Like, she lives in the spooky house that burned down. Her hair is just stuck to her head. What else does she do? She makes potions for a living, for no apparent reason. Oh, and surprise, surprise, the Hardy Boys are in this game. Wow. They seriously look like people that bully children for fun. I don't get it. I don't get what they were trying to do. I mean, Frank is still the smart one, and Joe is somehow even dumber than Rox now. But they're here. Do they really help us with, anything? Questionable. Maybe later in the game. I don't know. They were unnecessary. Let's just say that. Now, this guy looks like he should be on the new Hardy Boys, but he's just the judge's son. He screams massive douchebag, and that's all. You would be correct if you thought that. He just hits on Nancy. That's his character. The end. Okay, we have now made it to by far what I think is the worst part of this game, and that is, even though the Nancy Drew series is basically, puzzle adventure, we've already talked about how we haven't seen much of the adventure, but there are 0 puzzles. This is probably like one of 2 or 3 in the first 4.5, 5 hours. Think about that. And it doesn't even function as a puzzle. I still, looking at this now, have not figured out what the hell the goal, like, or what there is to solve besides just... Here's the deal. You can guess your way to victory, I think, on everything. You really can. It is just such a basic level of puzzling that requires no effort, no thinking, and even if you try to think, then you're doing it wrong. The only thing that you have to do in this puzzle is listen to what the people are saying, and if they like it, you did good, and if they don't like it, you did bad. I mean, maybe it helps if you kind of know how baking works. You can guess the ingredients, but that's it. All you do is guess. What? I just don't understand. If anything, like, there shouldn't be such obvious hints. Here's another puzzle that's just like, you know, silly. You read through this, you figure out what all the crap is supposed to do, and you just put things together. There's literally nothing else you do. You follow instructions. How is that a puzzle? I guess Nancy Drew games do that, but it's just, Investigating isn't much better. There's just so little to actually see and do. The whole 3D investigation thing isn't that fantastic either. It's almost as like the focus was on making sure, well, they did kind of have to make sure the game worked, didn't they? That there were significant fears about that. But then they just forgot to add content. It is what it is. Everything feels like such a dang trudge. It's just not how it's supposed to be done. There's just so much that was left out. It'd be nice to be able to click on more. Have to do more work. And yet this game still drags on. It's a weird... It's an enigma. It really is. Now, before you go, I did promise another good thing about this game, and I have to admit, the history is actually really well intertwined so far. Even though the museum is literally like one exhibit, which is ridiculous, it's interesting like how many times the characters actually bring up the past and how much it affects them. Everyone seems to be ascendant of someone who either was executed as a witch or executed witches. And it plays a big role in the game. And for once, like, Her Interactive picked an interesting topic for a Nancy Drew game. I don't know what it is. Because obviously, I mean, there's always some kind of like educational component of Nancy Drew adventures. Sometimes it's like way too much. I remember Scarlet Hand. That was miserable. I didn't give a damn about the Mayans. I'm glad they're all dead. It was not worth it. It was not worth learning about them. But like Salem Witch Trials, like that was, I mean, a tragic period of American history, but also one of the more interesting periods of American history, and something that, despite it being like more than 400 or so years old, is still pretty relevant today. basically, to make a long story short, no one is immune from mass hysteria. You know, I hope that they just keep incorporating stuff. I genuinely want to learn more about what happened and how it somehow relates to what's going on right now. I think that's going to be probably the most fun part of this game. As long as Deirdre's there. So, I think that pretty much covers everything for right now. At this point, you probably realize something. No, I have not completed the game yet, but Her Interactive asked me to get out content as quickly as I could, so this is part 1 of this review. Most importantly, I need to tell you what the hell the damn mystery is actually about, and how it's resolved, and whether or not anything is actually going to make sense. So, stay tuned, because there's plenty more to come. Since this is a review, to summarize what we have right now, I would say this isn't good. But I think we all knew that, didn't we? We all kind of knew that was coming. In fact, I have something, I have a mystery for you that I want you to look into before the next part of the review comes up. I need your opinion on something. The strategy guide still has a copyright of 2017. What the hell? Like, was this game done in 2017, or did they start in 2017? Or did someone make that big of a typo? I don't know, but that pretty much sums things up, doesn't it?